Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatles Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Now I did say in my last video that this next video was going to be a ranking video. I was going to rank my top 20 favourite singles from the Paul McCartney 7-inch singles crate based on the A-side, the B-side, the picture sleeve and the label. But to be honest, I'm having an absolute mare with it. I've got a list here of 37 singles that I've whittled it down to so far, but I'm having real trouble getting it down to 20. There are so many great singles in this set. This is not proving to be an easy ranking video, so I need a little bit more time on this. So instead, I'm going to be doing the next episode 8 in my deep dive album review series. I haven't done one for a while, so one is well overdue. I also haven't done a Ringo Starr album as yet, so that is well overdue as well. And I kind of wanted to make this a sort of a Christmas video, kind of Beatles Tones Christmas special, if you like. What do you mean it's not very Christmassy? Okay, let's make it Christmassy. Ho, ho, ho. What? It's not Beatley enough. Okay. There. Ho, ho, ho again. Right, so it's Beatley, it's Christmas, and I'm going to kill all three birds with one stone by reviewing this album, Ringo Starr's I Wanna Be Santa Claus from 1999. Now, if you've been watching these deep dive review videos so far, you kind of know the format, but if you're new to it, I'll just run through the format. What we're going to do is we're going to look at each track individually, we're going to talk about it a little bit and going to give it a score out of 10. When we've done all the tracks, we're going to add up all the scores for the album and divide it by the number of tracks on the album, which in this case is 12, and get an average score for the album. When we've got that, we're going to plonk it into Beatles Tones great big album review ranking table, which looks a little bit like this. Well, it doesn't actually look a little bit like this. It looks actually exactly like this because this is it. So we've only done 7 so far. So lots of work still to do on this, but we will do it. And the reason I'm doing this is because I kind of wanted to pitch all the albums together rather than just ranking all George's albums or all Paul's albums or whatever, which I'll probably do separately, but I kind of wanted to pitch them all against each other, and because everybody needs to know whether Extra Texture is a worse album than Bad Boy, don't they? Right? So that's what we're going to be doing. Now, there's a slight caveat to the scoring out of 10 thing, which applies to this album, and that is that where the song is a cover version, we're only going to rank it out of 7 rather than 10, because when you haven't had to write the song for an album, that's a little bit of the album making process that is taken out of the equation. So it's not fair to mark a cover version the same as an original written song. But if the song is written specifically for the album, in other words, the Beatle is doing this song for the first time, then it will be marked out of 10. I know it's confusing, isn't it? You might be asking why I'm being so pedantic about this scoring system, and it's a very good question. It's just that I kind of need a rationale to mark them against each other, and I think that's the right way about doing it. It's not a perfect way, but it's the best I've come up with so far. So, shall we get on with ranking I Wanna Be Santa Claus? So, I Wanna Be Santa Claus by Ringo Starr, a purpose-built Christmas album, if you like, made up of 6 original Christmas songs and 6 traditional Christmas songs done in Ringo's way. Now, the Christmas album is a bit of a strange beast for us here in the UK. We don't really get British artists doing a dedicated Christmas album like in America. It's far more popular. The Beach Boys have done one, Mariah Carey's done one, even Bob Dylan has done one, but in the UK not so much. The Christmas single is a big thing in the UK, where artists are clamouring to get the #1 spot on Christmas week. But the Christmas album, not really at all. So quite unusual to have a British artist like Ringo doing a dedicated Christmas album. Now, because of that, the album only came out in the US, I believe, in 1999. We didn't get a release in Britain, and that was the first time that one of Ringo's albums hadn't been released in the UK since Old Wave. Now, the album didn't do very well. It was on the Mercury label. It was the last record that Ringo did for Mercury. They didn't promote it at all, and I hadn't even heard of it till about 10 years ago. But Ringo wasn't happy with the label, and he flounced off at the end of it. So let's just have a look at the album. It looks like this, with Ringo Starr, I Want to Be Santa Claus on the front, and on the back, Santa Claus, I Want to Be Ringo Starr, and a list of the tracks. Now, the album comes in a sort of a white paper inner. As I say, it's on the Mercury label, and the vinyl looks like that. And it comes with an inner sheet that looks like this, which is just a list of the tracks and the musicians that play on each track. There's a few famous names on here. Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles is on here, as is Joe Perry from Aerosmith. I think Jeff Lynne, does some backing vocals on this album as well. Anyway, that's the background to the album. Let's get on and review the thing. So one of the most popular Christmas songs in the UK is Slade's Merry Christmas Everybody. In fact, we've got this expression here that it's not really Christmas until you've heard the Slade record on the radio, and you do hear it every year on the radio, and it gets released every 2 or 3 years as a single. I've no idea how many times it's got into the charts. But the first song on this album is called Come On Christmas, and it's written by Ringo and Mark Hudson and Dean Grackle, and it is a shameless attempt to try and replicate the glam rock Christmas song. The vocals are kind of shouted in the way that only Noddy Holder can sing, and I'm not sure how well that works, but it's not just Ringo doing the lead vocals on this. The song is set to a backbeat of thumping drums that sound very much like the Glitter Band, with loads of reverb on it to give them that great big sort of beefy drum sound, and the guitars thrash around a bit like T-Rex or Slade as well. So it is a shameless attempt. Having said that, it's not totally unpleasant. The lyrics are a bit repetitive, which they basically consist of Come On Christmas, Christmas Come On. And of course, Gary Glitter also had that hit, I'm the Leader of the Gang, which started off with Come On, Come On, Come On. So it is a shameless attempt to get a Christmas hit in a glam rock style. It was released as a single, did absolutely nothing. But having said that, it's not unpleasant. It's quite catchy to listen to, gets the album off to a sort of a rocky sort of start, and I'm going to give this one 6 out of 10. So track 2 is a cover of the classic Christmas song Winter Wonderland, a brave song for Ringo to take on, really, but you know what, he does a really good job with it, and I really like this version. It gives it a much more contemporary feel. There's a lovely bit of jangly piano at the beginning on the intro, a little solo in the middle, loads of nice backing vocals and harmonies going on in it, and you can hear guitars in this song, which you don't really associate with the song Winter Wonderland. Towards the end of the song, he goes into his own song, I Was Walking, because it kind of fits in with the Walking in a Winter Wonderland theme, and it fits in perfectly. And you know what, if I want to listen to the song Winter Wonderland, I think I'd rather hear this upgraded version of the song than the staid old original. So I'm going to give this one 7 out of 10. So track 3 is the title track, I Want to Be Santa Claus, written by Ringo Starr, Mark Hudson and Dick Monda. It's set to an upbeat waltz beat. Ringo does some nice little drum rolls at the beginning, and it's kind of I can hear that there's bits of this song that they have nicked from Winter Wonderland. The way that the verses are structured, you could almost fit in the words of part of the verse of Winter Wonderland and it would fit perfectly. Musically, it sounds like a Christmas song. They really have thrown the kitchen sink full of Christmas cliches at this one musically. The only thing really that's missing is some sleigh bells, but it's got strings, it's got a recorder, it's got lyrics that contain the words like Santa Claus is someone who comes just once a year, but I could be there every day bringing everyone cheer, or words to that effect. There's even a ho 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 at the end of the song, and he even manages to get the lyrics with love from me to you in it as well. But it is as cheesy as Mayor McCheese's Christmas cheese board, but on the other hand, it's not unpleasant. It sounds like a Christmas song. It's a bit of fun, and I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. So track 4 on this album is a cover of The Little Drummer Boy. Of course it is. Of course Ringo is going to cover this song on his Christmas album. But for me, this song just does not work for Ringo at all. It's not a good version. It's far too boisterous. It's far too robust. It loses all the subtlety and finesse of the Bing Crosby and David Bowie version that we all know. It's so boisterous, in fact, that the drum intro at the beginning is exactly the same drum intro that Ringo uses on Back Off Boogaloo, almost note for note. It is the same intro. But Ringo's drumming throughout this song is fantastic. There's a middle eight in the song where each line of the middle eight is punctuated with a great drum fill from Ringo. But generally, the arrangement is too boisterous for the song. Ringo's vocals are lost somewhere in the mix, and this doesn't work for me. So I'm just giving this one 4 out of 7, and all 4 points are for Ringo's drumming. So next up is a cover of, and I can barely bring myself to say it, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, as Beatles fans, should we be dismayed that one of the Beatles is doing a cover of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Well, probably not, because this is a kiddies song, and the treatment that the song is given, it, like Winter Wonderland, it's given a much more contemporary feel. There's drums, there's guitars, there's backing vocals. Ringo even gets the lyric wrong at one point and just laughs at himself, and they left it in, which just goes to show that we shouldn't really be taking this too seriously. And if you've got to listen to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, then I'd probably listen to this version of it, because it's quite fun, and you know, I can't really say any more than that. We can't really take it too seriously. It's certainly a step up from Paul's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reggae, that's for sure. So I'm going to give this one 5. The final song on the album is an original song called Christmas Eve, written by Ringo and Mark Hudson, and it's the album's first ballad, and it's a big ballad to end side 1. It's a typical Christmas tearjerker. The love of Ringo's life has left him on Christmas Eve, and we get lyrics like, it's Christmas Eve and you're not here, the snow is falling just like my tears. It's that sort of caper. You know what I'm talking about here. And unfortunately, on the first couple of verses, the musical arrangement is quite sparse, which leaves Ringo's voice quite exposed, and singing ballads is not his strong suit, I don't think, and he's not really very convincing in that role. In the middle of the song, there's a big middle eight where the whole song sort of lifts, and Ringo is fine in that part of the song. The lyrics kind of end halfway through the song, and the rest of the song is carried by instrumentation. There's strings in there, and finally we get to hear some sleigh bells, which is a big plus for me. But as a ballad, it's not bad, but it's not great. either. So I think probably a score of 5.5 is good for this song. So side 2 of the album opens up with another original song. It's called The Christmas Dance, and it's written by Ringo, Mark Hudson, Jim Cox and Steve Dudas. And I think this is a fantastic song. I really love this song. And to describe it is quite difficult because it goes through quite a few different genre influences throughout its short 3.5 minutes lifespan. It starts off with a guitar riff which is similar to that used in Jeepster by T-Rex, but it then morphs into this sort of skiffily, rockabilly, bluegrassy country sort of workout. Really great song, very, very catchy, a real sort of toe tapper. If I was trying to sort of nail where how the feel of the song is, I would probably point to something like Rattled from the first Travelling Wilburys album. It's not like that lyrically or musically, but what I mean is it's like that in feel, in the way that the song is driven by acoustic guitars, bass and drums at quite a fast sort of tempo. It is a real toe tapper. In the middle of the song, it's got a guitar solo that could have been lifted straight off of What Goes On from Rubber Soul. There's a joyful part of the verse where the verse kind of builds up to the chorus, and I really like how that happens. There's loads of great backing vocals in this. There's sort of oohs and ahs and call and response backing vocals, which are really great. And then halfway through the song, it kind of goes into a sort of a ragtime sort of feel. There's saxes and other horns on it, and you get the feeling that The Christmas Dance is one of those sort of old-fashioned tea dances, and that's kind of cemented at the end where it goes into a kind of a strings waltzy type thing. But really great song. This is up there with Ringo's best, I think. This wouldn't be out of place on the Ringo album. I don't think it's that good. Really, really great song, and I'm gonna get definitely the best song on the album so far, and definitely the best original song on the album so far. I'm gonna give this a whopping 8.5 out of 10. So next up is Christmas Time Is Here Again, written by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison and Ringo Starr. And I'm not sure whether this counts as being an original song or a cover version. I think probably for the purposes of this review, it's a cover version. I think this is, of course, the song that the Beatles threw together for their 1967 fan club Christmas flexi disc. It also turned up as one of the bonus tracks on the Free as a Bird CD single. Now the version here is more complete than the Beatles version. It's got harmonies in it. It's got two solos. It's got a guitar solo, a keyboard solo, and I'm pretty sure that there's some bagpipes in there as well. But basically the song just repeats the refrain. Christmas time is here again, been around since don't know when, O-U-T spells out. And it just repeats it over and over and over again. And for that reason, the song probably outstays its welcome by at least a minute and a half. The O-U-T spells out thing we kind of recognise from the Paul McCartney song Queenie Eye, but actually that O-U-T spells out thing was just a general British playground thing. We didn't call it Queenie Eye, we called it Queenie who's got the ball. But O-U-T spells out was used in a kind of a game where called It, where you used to decide who was it, and that person would run around and try and chase people down, and you had to decide who was going to be it, and you did this poem to sort of decide. You'd point to each person, everyone stood in a circle, you go, Ip Tip Sky Blue, who's it? Not you. O-U-T spells out, and the person who was out pointed to when you said out was not it. And that is totally irrelevant to this review. I don't know why I told you that, really. That was just 30 seconds of absolute nonsense. But obviously this song is pretty average. It lacks the charm of John's little Scottish monologue that the Beatles version had. It's a pretty average track. It's a pretty forgettable track, and I'm just going to give it 5. So track 3 on side 2 is a cover of Blue Christmas. I guess that Elvis Presley's version of this song is probably the most well known, but this is a country song, and we all know that Ringo does country really well, and this is no exception. Really good version of this. Fantastic pedal steel guitar throughout, but particularly the solo in the middle. He does a really good job with this, and I'm going to give this one 7. This is one of the best tracks on the album. So track 4 on side 2 is another original composition. It's called Dear Santa, and it's written by Ringo, Mark Hudson and Steve Dudas. And it's a ballad, and it's a big ballad, another big ballad. But unlike Christmas Eve, Ringo sings this really well. It suits him. The song's got some really nice chord changes in it and a nice melody as well. This is Ringo's little letter to Santa. He sings, Dear Santa, we need you here. Bring us just one present for a happy new year. And guess what he's asking for? Yeah, he's asking for peace and love. And you could argue that that's two things really, but we're not going to split hairs for this song. It is a nice song. It's got a George Harrison-esque guitar solo in the middle, and it's got a sax solo at the end, and of course it's got what every Christmas song needs: sleigh bells. It's got that. There might even be a little nod to John Lennon when he sings Dear Santa, we've heard it all before, from Jingle Bells to No More Wars. A little nod maybe to John Lennon there. This is a good song. I'm going to give this 7. So the penultimate song on the album is a cover of White Christmas, and I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I just have no idea what he was thinking of. Now, we wouldn't want him to try and emulate Bing Crosby's version of White Christmas, because that is pretty much untouchable. But for this song, he has given it a sort of a reggae, calypso, Caribbean feel, and it just does not work. You've got steel drums, you've got a reggae rhythm, there's a pedal steel guitar solo in the middle, which might be quite nice, but Ringo is chuntering over the top of it, so you don't get to hear it properly. But it kind of misses the point completely, because, if there's one place where you got no chance whatsoever of getting a White Christmas, it's the Caribbean. Or maybe that is the point. Maybe the Caribbean is the place where you dream of a White Christmas the most, because you've got absolutely no chance of getting one. But whichever way you look at it, this is wrong on so many levels. It just doesn't work for Ringo, and it doesn't work for that song. So I'm going to give this 2 out of 7. So we've arrived at the final song on the album, and it is an original composition. It's called Paxum Biscum, Peace Be With You. And it's written by Ringo, Mark Hudson and Scott Gordon. And it's an Indian piece. There's tablas on there which sound very nice, and there's sitars as well, although no one's credited with playing sitar, so I presume it's either played on a keyboard or they're using a sample. But the song actually just repeats the title of the song over and over again like a mantra. Paxum Biscum, Peace Be With You, with the odd Merry Christmas thrown in for good measure. Now, this would have been all right if it had been tacked on the end of the album with about a minute's worth of this song. It would have been tolerable. But this song drones on for 4.5 minutes, and quite frankly, it's a great big bore. So not a great way to end the album, and I can only give this one 2 out of 10. So just summing up, I Want to Be Santa Claus by Ringo Starr. This is a fun album, but it's got limited shelf life. You're not going to pull this album out in the middle of July, but come December, you might want to give this album a spin. It's lots of fun. There's some really great moments on it. And from the little bits of chat that you hear from Ringo during and at the end of songs. It sounds like Ringo had a really good time making it. It can't be sort of judged really on the level of, you know, serious albums. It is just a fun album. It's a Christmas album and should be judged like that. So let's have a look at how it did. It got a total of 65 points. There are 12 tracks on the album, which gives it an average of 5.41. So we're going to plop it into Beatly Tone's great big album review ranking table and see where it comes. And at the moment, it is in 8th place. It's bottom of the pile of all the albums that I've reviewed so far. And I would imagine it's going to drop a lot further down than that once we get a few more albums into the table. So that's pretty much it from... Oh, it started snowing. It must be Christmas. That's pretty much it for this video. Now, as always, I want to hear your thoughts. If you've got this album, please tell me down in the comments what you think of this album, or if you want to talk about the video or my rankings, have I got it right, have I got it wrong, please tell me down in the comments. As you know, I read everything and will respond to everything as well. If you're seeing this channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel. That would be absolutely marvelous. Please give the video a like and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. That's all for me. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video and I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.